welcome to the SuperLife podcast.
Thanks. Great to see you.
It's so wild because I was like driving in. It's literally over 20 years I've known you.
Yeah.
And it's just a trip, you know, and the evolution of me and you and Laird and the superfoods, and is it going, is it not going, is it's surviving, it's just wild and cool, and your kids and I got the notes from your team, and it's like, oh yeah, it's funny because it's I know you so well.
You got notes?
Yeah, I know. I was like, is there notes? And then I'm
really?
like, oh, I know all of this stuff.
Yeah, you
but,
know it better.
But at the same time, it's we haven't been in contact all that much in the last few years.
Yeah.
But of course, all of our friends, and I always get the updates. But this is a great chance just to dig into stuff that, is different. And my audience may or may not know everything about you. So
that's probably good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
But it's like you're such an anomaly, and you're such a real direct person, and you've gotten through so much, and you've accomplished so much. And I don't know about you, but I feel like when you're on a path, I don't kind of hang out much in what I did.
Yeah.
I just want to keep moving forward and create more, especially as we age. And so maybe a little bit of a background of
What the power tips?
Well, I mean, it's you've cultivated from island life to your own family life to accomplishing a lot. As a professional, modeling all over the place. It's just, it's wild. It's cool to read, your back story, even though I've known it.
Yeah.
But to reflect on that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a different life in a way. Well, it's an extension. I will have friends that talk about doing something new or different, and I'm like, no, that's just an extension of your story. This is a representative of you. So you alluded to the fact I grew up in the Caribbean, most formative years, and then I got pulled out of there my junior year of high school and moved to Florida because I was kind of rudderless, which is a good adult way of saying I was probably headed for real trouble.
Right.
15, a junior, 6'3".
Yeah.
Not a lot of prospects.
Yeah.
I thought I'd probably work in a gift shop, honestly.
Was that moment were you pushing back at it?
I had a boyfriend. Come on, Darin.
Oh, you didn't want to.
I had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
He was the only bad boyfriend I ever had. I picked every good boyfriend after that. I still know him too.
Right.
Mark Underwood.
Wow.
And I realized, I don't want to have bad boyfriends. We were young.
So you were resisting moving, but...
Oh, are you kidding? The interview to go to a Christian school that I was the only unsaved person at. Yeah.
Come on.
Swear. I remember sitting at the bathroom floor and kicking the door when my mother tried to open it, and then jumping out of the car at the stop sign on the way to the interview.
Come on.
Yeah, of course. 15, like hell on wheels, let's go, right? And then also, I won't get too much into it, but I went to the school called Keswick Christian. The principal, Timothy Greener, let me in to the school. He could have easily said...
no idea what he was signing up
for. Well, this is what gets so interesting, is my senior year... and I've really come to a different place at 55 years old than when I was a younger adult. I realized that we all are given our homework when we're young.
Yeah.
And mine was, I didn't always live with my parents.
Right.
My mom was very young when she had me. She was training dolphins in a circus. I'm not making that up. My dad died in a plane crash when I was 5. And so I was watching Leave It to Beaver and thought, what is wrong with my life?
Right.
I'm in the Caribbean. But see, the other side of that is my dad was from Trinidad, so I got to understand my dad's culture just by growing up in St. Thomas.
Right.
There were some grounding factors that have also bonded me easier probably to my husband, values that who knew later show up. So anyway, I'm pissed. And I said I was 6'3", a pissed off 6'3" teenage girl
Right.
is a lot to handle. So my mother, to her credit, felt compelled that this would be a good move for me. Turns out it was. I got involved in sports. I was exposed to a lot of good people. In fact, my senior year, my mother was humming and hawing about going back to St. Petersburg, Florida. We were back in New York visiting for the summer. Timothy Greener and his wife called my mother and said, send Gabrielle. And I lived with the principal my senior year and his wife and 2 very young children.
Oh my God.
For the first few months of my senior year because he knew I needed some stability.
Right.
And I, in fact, saw Timothy Greener last year as on a visit. So these were very pivotal. Those are those, forks in the road kind of thing.
Right. So you got a grounding household of sorts.
I had always had that. Even the people that I lived with when I wasn't with my mother, sort of these. And that's the other thing that felt really important that I learned when I was older, which is you may not be given the things that you think you're supposed to, but if you looked left or right, you were given bonus in some other ways. Right. And if you could recognize it, and I sort of always had these adults that kind of stepped in, and so I did have a lot of support. It just didn't look like what I thought it was supposed to look like.
Right.
So anyway, so then I got a bunch of offers for athletic scholarships. I played volleyball and basketball. I was probably a little bit better in basketball because I had a great coach.
Wow.
I decided on volleyball because I liked my opponent being on the other side of the net. Those basketball girls will, and I knew it. I went to some fancy camps and I was like, oh yeah, this is more than I probably could handle for 4 years.
Wow.
So I went to Florida State, which I was 17 when I graduated. So my whole first season, I was 17, and my coach, Dr. Cecile Renaud, was another adult, still a very close friend of mine in my life. Taught me a lot about accountability and just hard work and personal responsibility. And then that next summer I started modeling because I needed to make money.
Right.
I was on scholarship. It's not like today where you do NIL. I, in fact, competed my sophomore year on scholarship and gave up my scholarship and paid to play.
Oh, wow.
Because I was getting hassled for modeling. And so I waited out and thought, it's going to be worth the risk. So I did that then for another 2.5 years where I played ball, was at school. Then I'd live in New York in spring and then go back to school, play ball, jam up on credits in summer to be eligible to play. And did those 2 things for a long time until I got out of school. Then I became a professional beach volleyball player. A big surprise to me. I played beach volleyball for the first.
Why was that surprising?
Well, I played beach volleyball for the first time when I was 20.
Oh, right.
And I became professional at 22. I was very late to all of this. And so I was kind of felt like I was playing catch up. Yeah, and kind of being like, people, it was just a different conversation. You were living. You weren't going to go be someone, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So, I started playing ball, and originally I was playing 4-on-4, which was a great discipline for my style of play. And then I moved to California at 22, right after the riots, perfect timing, and then played ball, and it went on from there. During that time, I was doing TV and writing because I was interested in talking to other people and athletes and learning, but also it was kind of a side hustle,
right?
Because beach volleyball is so small.
Right.
And so I had learned from modeling sort of some important tenets about presentation and some other things. And then it just goes on from there.
But the acquisitive nature that you've always had with people and the friends around you, but also learning, that's always been your thing. I'm curious when, after the virile girl came, like when did that kind of start sinking in and you started to, logic is the wrong word, but really start to understand what you need? Was that as a result of all of the mentors and just the reality of what you saw in front of you? Because it seems as though that's you made, although you got there late, it seems as though you made some mature decisions straight away.
I actually think that's always been a part of my personality.
Yeah.
I think by nature, and it's funny because now that I have daughters, you realize they're born a certain way, and one of them and I share very similar birthdays, and I'm like, oh yeah, there was a real deep sense of self-protectiveness. So I wasn't going to probably do anything too radical because I was really, I didn't want to hurt myself. And so within that, you're oriented towards usually making, at least after you screw up once and go, oh, that's not a good idea. Not doing that a lot. So I think I always had that. And then having people who believed in me, and then a place, a track.
Right.
Sports for me was the track. Work was the track. Like, oh, if I work hard, if I put my head down, if I do these things, it leads to some pretty good places, not to mention how I felt about myself.
Right.
I felt really, I remember thinking, I like who I am more. I'm more proud of myself when I'm working hard and earning it versus, you know, twiddling my thumbs or getting into any trouble.
Right.
And so once you feel that, you go, this feels good.
Right.
So I think it was a combination.
Now, did you, did the competitive, because you had to have this competitive drive, you still have it. It shows up in different ways now, but what was that like? Because, you know, okay, modeling and okay, you were tall and athletic, but what was the drive to just keep, when did you notice that, I guess?
It was early because I realized I was going to have to take care of myself. It was on me.
So that was kind of added, the competitiveness drove you to take care of yourself as well.
Well, that's what it was going to take, right? So I'm more about like, I'm not just competitive for the sake of being competitive. I'm probably competitive by nature, but not just all over the place and everything all the time.
Right.
But where it like could
Laird might be that way.
Correct. That's why he couldn't compete. That's exactly right. He's so competitive he can't compete.
Which is such a kind of a
it's insanity.
Brilliant, weird.
Yeah. So
he's so competitive.
He's competing. He's decided, I'm so competitive, I'll pick Mother Nature because I know going in I can never win.
Never.
So it's so clear.
The biggest force.
That's right. It's not like today might be my day. It's like he knows going in every time. Yeah. That's never going to happen. Yeah. So I think I just turned it off and on. And it was like, oh, today the goal is you're going to play this game. You got to get this many points. Do that. Focus. Don't let your teammates down. You've worked hard. So let's see what you can do. It's a combination. You know, it is a different form of expression. It's a ego thing. It's a being a reliant partner thing. It's all the things. Right. Plus, can be really fun. Yeah. You know, and so if you say, hey, if you said to me at that time, part of the goal is you get to win, then it's like, okay, what's that going to take? So I think it was more about that, and also I understood really young, really early. I could recognize an opportunity. That was never wasted on me.
That's a good skill.
So I think I was a door opener and a go through, even though like, oof, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know. I'm unsure. Right. No, it's an opportunity. You got to go.
And then the more you do that, the more trust probably it brings.
Yeah. And you fall on your face and you realize you can survive it.
Right.
I've fallen on my face tons. I do still. So I think that practice was early and often, and so it really formed me quite young.
Yeah. And then you had these big moments, which is always great, again, for me to, you know, how you meet someone the way they are, but then you look back at your past and go, oh, that was Gabby too, right? And so these moments that you had in your life where, I mean, just this side, I think it was, I don't know if it was Jose, because when I was in Boulder, the Jose Cuervo came through. Oh. Were you?
Yeah,
were you
we played a bit of that, yeah. And then I played a lot of times because I was playing on the fours. I played that with the mixed.
Right.
So I'd play with a male partner, which was really stressful. Like you're playing with Karch Karai, and you're like, please God, don't let me make a mistake. What if I just stand in the corner and he can play 1 against 2? You know. So it was good fun, and there was a lot of time, and I know people feel this way in their life, that I thought, do I really belong here? You know, like, and then it's later. You know, I had a teammate from college. My teammates were not, some of them were okay, but some were pretty tough on me in college especially. And I had a teammate that I still am friendly with, and she's like, you know, you were really good in college. I mean, like I have records at Florida State that are still there. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Because they didn't really, a lot of them maybe didn't want me to feel that way.
Right.
when I was playing. So I always appreciated it. But I think for people to feel like sometimes they're in over their head a little bit, out of their depth, that's okay. You can still do a lot of good stuff and do good work, all whilst feeling like, oh, I feel a little bit, like your nose is kind of just right there in the water.
That's kind of funny because you've married something like that. And the culture you've created at your home is, you continue to push that. And Laird pushes that, and you are pushing that, and it's interesting.
But I will tell you something different, very different about Laird and I. I asked Laird once, because I met Laird at 25, which now sounds really young to me. God. I said to him once, we must have been married already for like a few years. Has there ever been a time that you were going to go somewhere to surf and maybe you hadn't surfed that spot, and like you traveled a long distance, or maybe you got new equipment, like you thought to yourself like, I hope I can do it? And he's like, no. Wow. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting. He has a very different relationship with his sport than I did with mine. And I think a lot of lifestyle people, lifestyle sport people, they earn it in such a different way that I think they have a different understanding of what they're doing. And also there's an unpredictability that's always a part of it.
Right.
So they learn that muscle, they develop that muscle, learning how to be like, I know how to do this, and there's all these unknown variables that are definitely going to show up.
Right.
And their relationship with that is probably a lot deeper.
Yeah, so that curiosity, that comfortability of being in front of the camera, the whole MTV thing popped up. I think it was either the Jose Cuervo, I probably saw you, but it was
probably MTV Sports.
It was probably MTV Sports. It was because
you weren't watching volleyball, but you were watching.
Yeah, and Dan Cortez, and they
Absolutely.
just had this freaking cool niche.
Oh, and Henry Rollins was on that show as well. Did you know that?
Right.
He'd read do a slam for like 6-7 minutes, and then Dan Cortez got hurt. It was his idea and his show. Totally.
Dan's. That was
Dan.
Wow.
Dan was like a PA. That part could be wrong of what I'm saying, but he worked at MTV. He had this idea, and that was his idea. And so when he got hurt, because the idea was he'd go interview people, do all these things, and do a beginner's version of what that looks like, whether it's jumping out of a plane, climbing a mountain, whatever, barefoot water skiing.
It was kind of way ahead of its time in a certain sense.
And he got hurt, and he was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So they hired me to do that.
Wow.
So I would show up, and he'd do all the wraparounds. He'd be sitting with some uber famous rock star or basketball player, and he'd be like, oh, we're going to throw to Gabby Reece, and he'd always say, like, she's like 9 feet tall. And then, like, or say something funny, and then there I was doing something.
Right.
And I really enjoyed it because I'd learn about the athlete. I'd try something new. There was something, because by nature, I'm actually not an adventurous person that way. There always has to be, and this is one of my many flaws, what's the point? Jim Quick said to me that we all have a leading question. And he goes, do you know yours? And I go, oh, yeah, what's the point? And for me, like, oh, Gabby, you want to go hike this mountain? It's like, for what?
Right.
The view? Okay, like, I've seen views.
Right.
No, we have a job to do. We need to accomplish this thing by the end. We have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'm like, oh, great, I can do that. Let's jump out of the plane. No problem.
Wow.
So I got to do all this really cool stuff.
That you would never
drive drag bikes, dragsters, barefoot water skiing. I don't suggest that. I hurt my knee. Well, just all kinds of things that I would have never done. And so it was actually a really good way for me to be that person still in alignment with actually who I am.
Right. And then you met Laird on that. That was that show.
Actually,
right?
a show after that I got, it was called The Extremist. Laird wouldn't be on MTV Sports. He would be on The Extremist. That was one more niche. And so by then I had done a lot of shows.
Right.
And believe me, I had no romantic interludes with any of my guests.
Right.
98% of them being men. And then there was Laird.
Yeah.
And that was 30 years ago.
Jesus. It's crazy.
It's crazy that the two of us could be married for so long. Because you wouldn't think, like, if you knew me and you knew Laird, you wouldn't think that we would be able to. And I always say, listen, every good couple, they have to almost get divorced once or twice.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way it is. So
I
wouldn't paint the picture of like, we just slipped into that and we knew exactly. No, there's been a lot of toe stomping and apologies and adjustments and learning because we didn't have a model of that.
Well, there's that big moment. I don't know if there was anything bigger, but when I first started to get to know you, and I didn't know Laird.
Yeah.
Right? I was shuffling those bars that I was making, and he was doing extreme stuff, and we would see each other in the gym. And
thank God you wore your helmet when you were mountain biking and biking.
Oh, my God. I slammed my head against the pavement.
You had a tough girlfriend who was up your colon about wearing a helmet, but if she did one thing right.
I think the first time, aside from football, I had a full-on concussion.
You cracked your helmet.
Yeah, broke it. And blood on the side of PCH.
Yeah.
Thankful for that. It's funny that you...
She had really pretty eyes.
Oh, she's stunning.
Yeah. And tough.
Tough, yeah. You saw that right away.
Oh, well, I'm a girl.
Yeah.
The pretty eyes and the everything else beautiful didn't distract me. I was like, ooh, he's got a kill up.
Yeah. I've learned. I've evolved.
Who saved your life?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, so at that time, and I don't know all the details, but I remember, and so again, I didn't know Laird. I didn't know his habits, and Larry, I found out later, was a real thing. And it wouldn't have been a good match for me at that time with Laird. I came from, my dad was an alcoholic, so that shit, I just avoid completely.
Yeah.
And Laird just being who he is. I mean, the stories I heard was like, oh, that's.
Yeah, he's already radical.
Yeah.
And then he was drinking red wine, and then
not just a little.
Oh no, every day. And I used to be like, woof. And this is when he was really performing at a very high level. I also thought he punished himself more, trained harder, did everything more because he probably knew that the alcohol wasn't great.
Yeah.
But he was working out his own stuff. There's an interesting thing when you're in a partnership where it's like, hey, I'm your partner, and this is about how this impacts me, but I'm also your friend.
Right.
And I can see a lot of dynamics that make me also understand some of this behavior. Doesn't mean it's great, but it makes me understand it. Yeah. And I think Laird was confused by being able to be in pursuit of something that he genuinely loved, that gift, that freedom, because it brought, he could make a living from it. He got attention from it. And meanwhile, he could see that that's not the case for everybody, and especially not where he grew up, where people, they have to work really hard to get it done. And so I think he carried a weird, I don't want to say shame,
right,
but maybe a little bit.
Well, he's got such a blue-collar sensibility, too.
Yes.
So he knows how to work hard. If anyone's been around him, he's doing anything and fixing stuff and performing at a high level and coming up with stuff. Like, he's always...
Oh, yeah.
So it makes sense how you explain it in that way, because if you come up with an island and you're around hardworking people, and then you're wrestling with this, I'm doing my thing at a very high level, and I'm being praised is the wrong word, but it's part of it.
Yeah, and it's weird.
It's a strange thing, but the moment, because you can have all that awareness and you don't know someone's timing, especially with addiction, right? And you were like, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I remember it. You said, hey, this isn't going to work for me. You can keep doing whatever you're doing. You're going to have access to the children.
Oh, yeah.
All of that stuff. You weren't going to go gnarly in all of those weird ways, but you couldn't no longer be in this. And so you set...
Well, it was 12 years.
Right.
And it sort of had accelerated because you figure I met Laird when he was 31. Then he sort of started getting kind of this attention at 35, 36. And I think that's when he had to dance and figure it out. And then, you got to go through shit. So we went through some shit. And I think that what's interesting is the minute Laird saw either I'm going to lose my family, I was pregnant with our youngest daughter, or I potentially have hurt Gabby. And I don't mean physically. He just stopped. And to your point, because I'm well aware that and I was 37. Like I was an adult.
Yeah.
It couldn't be that I said, you better. Right. If it didn't occur to him, he wasn't going to stop. And so I just presented my side, which was like, hey, I love you, but I can't hold my breath anymore.
Right.
Because I would just go to bed and go, I could wake up in the morning and Laird has either like a broken neck or he's dead because he doesn't do like out in public at a bar kind of guy. He's right. like in farm equipment on the pineapple field, And I was like, but take your time and decide, because maybe life's too boring for you without it. Because I was the other way. I grew up in the Virgin Islands where everybody drank. So my adult life, that alcohol wasn't really part of my life. And that was it.
Yeah. But it was a boundary for you. Like, and that's where no one's telling Laird what to do.
No
right?
one.
No
Not
one.
even now. Maybe daughters say some stuff that I go, whoa, that was good.
Right.
But they're the only ones.
Right. Yeah. So the way you did it was, number one, a boundary for you. You had to make a choice. And then that was wildly and weirdly and perfectly an invitation for him to see the effect.
Yeah.
And thank God he chose.
Well, you know what's interesting is people, when they're in new relationships, they kind of don't know what they could deal with. And I will say this, when you're with a person and they have a behavior that is not great for them, and then that would mean not great for the family or the partnership, and they make a distinct change, not only can people like recover from a lot of things, but you will never love, respect, and appreciate your partner more when they're able to do that. Because you also have a reference of they used to be like this, and now they're doing something completely different.
Right.
It is one of the more inspiring things to be a part of in a partnership, because to change is really hard.
Yeah.
So when they do that, the depth, I mean, I held my breath for 6 months. I was like, okay, let's see how this is going to go.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity for love to grow. And also then the other person can be like, oh, that person can really be there for me in a real way. And also Laird had already done that for me. I had a meltdown at 30 and split. And I said to Laird, when we got through some of this stuff, I said, somebody showed me forgiveness, and that's you. And so what happens is when you can develop this thing where you realize this person genuinely has my back, especially when I say I'm going to do this and I do it different, because that's got to be part of the deal, right? I can't say like I'll stop doing that and I keep doing the same thing. It can really, really solidify the relationship in a whole new way that you didn't know.
Yeah, and as wild as it is being human, we're going to have these challenges, but not to be cliche, but how we're dealing with them. And the ability to just show up in the face of you don't know, and it's impossible to understand, but you share your truth, and something you've always been, as I've known you, very honest and very open, very warming, but also to people, but also clear. There's no ambiguity with you. There's no ambiguity with Laird.
No, definitely not with Laird. I have sometimes a little higher polish.
Yeah.
But I've learned to really respect that. Laird said to me one time, he was direct with somebody about something, and he looked at me and he goes, "This is being loving." He's like sugarcoating it or walking it around or whatever. He goes, being honest with somebody, that's actually being really loving.
Yeah. And
so as a female, we're taught very differently. And so as you get a little older and you have less time, maybe throw a kid or two in there. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
And then, add a hormone shift or two, and you're just like game on. Like you're like, no, I need to tell you. But what I thought was so interesting, and I actually think in a masculine trait, there's a way to present things. You're not angry. You're not in love anymore. You're not coming from a negative energy. You're still coming of love and being direct.
Right.
And that takes, at least for me, it took me a long time to house both those things.
Well, it's a practice.
Yeah.
It's certainly a practice.
Well, and I think for females, we don't want to let anyone down.
For sure.
And then you realize you're definitely not going to please everybody.
Yeah. Well, then, I can't help it. I had Dr. Mindy Peltz on.
Yeah, she's feisty. I like her.
And we talked. Yeah, I can understand.
The separate bedroom thing is far out.
Yeah.
A lot of sleep divorce going on at people my age.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what's funny? I think, though, there's some bonding that goes on when you're sleeping next to a partner. Mm-hmm. And I think every couple has to do what works for them, for sure. But I think there's something like in my dynamic with Laird where it's like he would much prefer that I'm in the bed with him.
Yeah. I don't think we understand how important that is. We can't even unpack the quantum entanglement that's going on. But at the same time, it can't be things thrown under the rug either.
Well, we don't have that in our house,
exactly.
Darin. But that's not because of me.
I'm just saying in general, like it won't work for people if there's things that are boiling underneath the surface.
Yeah.
Because you want to go, I can't deal with that.
No.
But that's not.
And there's something else I think I'm learning a little bit too as I go. I really want to be excited by my partner. And I don't mean like, sex and all that too. But there's something about, even as you're getting older, could you be exciting? Right. And that's on us. Like, that's not for me to say to Laird, get exciting. Or him to say, Gabby, you could be more exciting.
Yeah.
And I think there's something like, for example, about Laird where he's exciting to me. And he does pull all the weeds. There's nothing that's put under the carpet. And so it keeps a little bit of that energy, even though after 30 years, where it's kind of like, and so I think part of the excitement can still live and breathe a little hotter because there isn't stuff getting put under the carpet.
And do you think that's also because there's a radical honesty thing there for sure? Mm-hmm. And do you think it's also just going back on Laird's always been driven by purpose, and you too, like, and so you both, and of course moving into business and all these other things, there's a drive that is there, that is individual, and it's also now there's a lot of crossover collective stuff too, which is cool to see you guys doing things kind of unified as opposed to, well, Gabby has to learn to surf or something, so, excuse me. So how has that been in the evolution? Because there has been ups and downs where your career is thriving, Nike time, and you were hitting high cylinders, right? You were doing a lot of things, and Laird was more of a supportive role, and then it's flipped, and then he was shining.
I feel like we've been in he's shining a long time. I'm like, here's dinner, let's raise kids. And you know what? It's exactly what has been right for me because that's what I wanted to do. But yeah, it's interesting. But so within that also is, and I have talked about this before, is also we're both very selfish. We're both completely of service to the relationship, to the family. But first, we're both, I think, of service to what each individual, what I need, what he needs. Right. And so I think because we're doing that no matter what, that takes care of a lot of issues. Because I'm not waiting on him to be a certain way so I can feel a certain thing. Right. And so that's a values thing, and we came into that with this. I think I heard Tony Robbins say 90% of the deal is who you pick. And so I can say, yes, we've learned some things in that 10%, but we have come to the relationship with some similar values that seem to have lined up and be harmonious. Yeah. But it keeps that energy moving in. It's not a blocked off waterway. New energy's coming in, and old things are moving out, and new is coming in. And so that does show up in the dynamic of being together.
Yeah, and you've also been at such a, I remember in meetings with you, and you're bringing Reece in as a tiny little baby into a meeting, and like you'd go out to the car and breastfeed and come back, and like, you were such a cool example of me just like sitting there going, oh, that's freaking rad. Like you weren't just, and I think it helped probably the children too, because it just kind of brought that, it wasn't like I got to be with children and then I'm doing this. You've, and maybe it was the aloha spirit. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a luxury too, though.
Yeah,
because I'm self-employed, which means you're an entrepreneur, which means you're willing to take the hit of what that means. So I was fortunate that I could create the environment to say during the time that my children especially are very young, they will be with me. Right. And that is one of the greatest luxuries that a person could have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was very much a part of...
Because our world's not set up like that.
Right.
Right, our world is set up that you go 9 to 5, you plug in, okay, you get 3 months maternity leave if... Right. I have teammates that I would talk to on the phone and they'd be going back to work once I got into the real world. And so I think I really recognize it, but it's being able to say that, yes, that means also you will work on Sunday.
Right.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, being an entrepreneur is gnarly.
Yeah.
Whatever
it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But having that support in the other partner, knowing that they're doing that in their own lane, in their own lane, and then a shared lane.
Yeah.
How has that been with, because Laird Superfood has also had a bunch of ups and downs.
Big time.
Challenges too.
Yeah. And XPT even has.
XPT.
Yeah, they all have.
Yeah. And it's like.
That's another show. No. I think what they don't tell you is that's how it goes.
Yeah.
You're always like growing and contracting and growing and pain points and, but we have to grow more. But look how successful we are. Yep, got to grow more, grow or die. It's like, so I think you just you get a cut. You don't hit the bumps so hard. Mm-hmm. And then you can kind of recognize them and think, well, how do I need to set my thermostat to endure this next either good or tough phase? Yeah. You're not so like freaked out about everything. You're just like, oh, this is gonna be this is gonna feel like this for a couple months. Yeah,
it's it's all of what's seen in the world is riddled with the path of just carnage too. Sometimes things that didn't work, projects that didn't work, businesses. I mean, you guys have had a lot of opportunity. You've tried, you've given it a go, and a lot of things didn't work. And that's time, that's money, that's like, there's no safety net of that stuff. No. It's just constant. Yeah. And there's one incredible trait that you and Laird both have, is that there's no way anything's staying stagnant. Even though that's kind of an illusion, but we still, in our mental construct, we believe that there is some sort of place that, this is good. But every time, every time I've been around Laird in particular, where if he feels like something's the same, oh my God. Yeah. You're like, get ready, because it's changing and it's going to be uncomfortable. And
then it's like anything, though. And then there's always going to be certain foundational things that are so constant so that the thing that rests on top of the foundation can do that. Because if you don't have, get to bed, you're the best example of anyone on the planet of this. And if you're not eating a certain way and loving and, doing the things, then you can't, your thing that you build on top can't handle that kind of weird motion. So within it is a constant, and then it allows for all of this. Right. Kind of up and down or change. And Laird and I are so different this way, and that's why I think we're good for each other. If he could have it different all the time in a certain way, he would, because for him, it's like, what is happening? But then, you have kids, and then all of a sudden you are taking people to school, or family dinner is important. So you turn them into rituals. Mm-hmm. He used to take our youngest daughter to school over the hill, and he's like, I got to get it in when I can, because she's gone. She's at NYU. She asked me the other day, I mean, at some point, aren't you going to retire? And I go, and do what?
Right.
What am I going to do? Am I going to worry about cleaning every corner of my house again?
Why do you think she asked you that?
Because I think she's grown up in a house that feels like I was accused of never taking a trip unless somehow work was somewhere involved in it. And I was like, am I going by? I said to her, listen, if I had a 9-to-5 job and I lived for the weekends, 100%, you would need to take a vacation and just say, yo, unplug. I live on Kauai and in Malibu.
Yeah.
Okay, where am I going? I just look outside my window and go, thank you.
Right.
So I think it's for her, she might be in a framework of a little more of like in the box.
Yeah.
And she's looking at us like we are lunatics.
Right.
Like, why would you make this so hard on yourself? And don't you want to just like hang out? And it's like, no. I want to do stuff. I want to work hard. I want to, even the training. I trained yesterday. I felt it was the worst I've ever felt.
Really?
Yeah, I was so tired. And I thought, oh, it's one of those days. But it literally was the worst I ever felt. And I thought.
The worst.
Yeah, like, you know what it felt like? It wasn't like, oh, I'm sore, I've got injuries. It was like it was almost like, oh, is this me now? Feeling. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you're like, oh shit, is this that thing that everybody talks about? And then when you say like something always changes, then you reframe it. Mm-hmm. So something has to, even if nothing is changing, how you view it has to change. And so that's, I think, the part for me that I'm always looking at, like, hey, I can't really change what's going on, but I'm definitely going to change my approach.
Right.
Or how I'm, my relationship to it, or some of my own practices. I might turn a few dials and ramp a couple things up and ramp a few things down. And so I think within that, because that's our responsibility.
Yeah. Well, that's where call it what you want, but the kingdom inside, and learning who you are, and listening with no other voice between you and the mystery of whatever that is, and I think, both you and Laird have a very strong sense of that.
Yeah, and sometimes I take it as a cue.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't how I'm feeling. This is a cue.
Yeah.
Something's off.
Yeah.
Something's off with you. What do you need to change? Take a look. Be responsible. Doesn't mean I'll get it perfect and be like tomorrow, be like, I'm back. But
right.
I'll probably be further ahead.
Right. What do you like now? What are you stoked about? What are you excited? It could be multiple things.
Yeah.
But what's driving you today?
Well, it's so interesting because people go, are you sad? Because the kids are gone. I'm like, by the way, it's not an empty nest. It's an open nest, especially this poor group now that has to go into the world. It's a harder place.
For sure.
Than when you and I fell into adulthood and it was like, oh, okay, we could get an apartment with a roommate. It was much easier. And it's also a really loud world. So for them to dial into what's my voice, who am I, let me see if I can find my path, all that's just made harder. Yeah. So I'm excited that I have now so much bandwidth and energy to focus. So of course, Laird Superfood is a priority because it is a really grown-up business and doing well. And so that excites me. And I'm working on a project with some other women that I really appreciate, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon and Stacy Sims and Abby Smith-Ryan and Amber Taylor. And so it was sort of like this idea, because I'm a team player, right? And Stacy Sims was like, maybe we could do something together. So I think there's some opportunity. And talk about people think, oh, they'll think we had a lunch one day and then the next Wednesday we were rolling. This is already an 11-month conversation.
Oh, wow.
And so I just like to also remind people that how do you find the fuel to have the endurance to do the things? And I think most of that stems from like, you really believe in it. Mm-hmm. And so what we said is a lot of the space in wellness is dominated by men. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. But could we do it through a female lens? Mm-hmm. All of them are married. All of them have children. Because I think working men have more in common with me than a guy who can have a 3-hour ritual in the morning and a 2-hour ritual at night. Mm-hmm. So we're sort of have this conversation about sort of collectively coming together and doing it through a female lens, of best-in-class information. So that really excites me. I love working with other people, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Because they're better at so many other things, and it's just cool to be a part of something.
Well, the number one, I think the underrepresented female in the wellness space, because so many studies are just male-based.
Sure.
And we're starting to uncover that right now.
Yeah.
And the openness that women have is massively different.
Yeah.
So they kind of move the needle of what's being purchased in the home more than, like, we're not just talking about the biohacking dude crowds.
Right.
Like, this is beyond that. This is wellness. This is information. This is education. Women are just more open.
Yeah.
And if there's a lane that can be filled to provide solid stuff, I think it's a home run, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think I am such a believer in amplification. I really think that instead of all of us in our many ways sort of ending up almost sort of not competing, but people have only so much time, but sort of having these touch points where everybody's still doing their own things.
Yeah.
But then we have these moments where we can come together and really help each other. And I think it's with the idea of solution orientation, not kibitzing, not being like, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's hard, but it doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
If we had a couple answers, if we had a couple practices.
Gabby's not hanging out in that space.
Well, none of those girls are, right? They're just like, what is it, And so I think that part really excites me, because what I really hope to do is inspire all people, because now that, and I'm sure you can relate to this, now that I've been in the space of, let's call it wellness, health and fitness, whatever you want to call it, being a human being, surviving, whatever. What's your practice? And so I'm actually finishing a book. This is my third book, and it's with the same woman I've done the other two,
Amazing.
Karen Carbo. And it's so funny because I'm talking about everything. There's not going to be like a bunch of suggestions about workout. It's all, I'm going to just beat it into everyone's head in every chapter. I'll give them, reference to people that I love. How do you build a practice? How do you build a community? Because we know for sure, pretty much that's the only way to get it done.
Right.
And so that's what I'm interested in, because I'm like, yeah. All the data, all the studies, everybody knows everything. What's your practice?
Right.
And who's helping you? Because we can't do it alone.
Yeah. Well, that's the discipline. That's those habits built with discipline help the resiliency when life's going to throw stuff. And the delusion that people live in is, it's going to be better when I'm over there. It's going to be better when. But the path of kind of going back to what you said before, the building that up within helps you build your own strength and power and knowledge of self. But then the steps that you're taking is also in terms of building all of that around you and the strength around you and the self-assuredness. But that's the only way it ever is anyway to accomplish what you want. And this, lottery mentality that we still have, I think, it's a apathetic challenge, I think. And if everyone can understand that it isn't one pill that will get them there, or it's one choice, that it's many.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's kind of like, on one hand, if you've lived in the dopamine like idea that I'm gonna win the lottery in some way, it can be a bummer in a certain sense, because you go, no, you just got to put your shoes on every day.
Yeah.
And you got to.
It's so true. I think all of this is still intertwined with our biology.
Yeah.
We're set up to be lazy.
Yeah.
It's totally normal.
Yeah.
So I think once you can get a relationship with all of the things that are intertwined within us as normal biological traits and then put systems in place to override them when they don't serve us. I think that's kind of the best way to go.
Maybe lay that out a little bit, as much as you want to say. Well, like, what's your ritual? What's your systems that are the solidification of your days? Mm-hmm. What are the things that kind of you are just non-negotiables?
Well, and I've always been that way. My training, I've talked about this a little bit, but I do think it's important. So I'm me, you're you, right? But I'm also trying to still become. Mm-hmm. And so I keep that person in my mind in the morning. When I get up in the morning, I go, well, who is that person? And how would they start their day? Even
Meaning
in here,
that kind of avatar of what.
Yeah,
of you.
And even here, the attitude. Because sometimes my real attitude is antisocial, grumpy. I don't want to smile at anyone. I don't want to, I don't want to serve anyone. I just want to do my thing. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh no, she wouldn't do that. So I get up like a big girl and I go, I'll do what those things. So I get prepared. I don't go downstairs until I feel ready to be her. Mm-hmm. And I spent some time with Laird, and then my training, even when I had very new little babies, was mine, even if it was 15 minutes. Right. So that's been the grounding. When people go, what do you do for fun? I go, it's not about that. I have the luxury to have time to train. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've been a master at that for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gabby.
So
stoked to be.
I appreciate you so much. And I'm excited for you because I've seen you have so many different iterations of what you're doing and spreading your knowledge and just helping people. I know you inspire a lot of people.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's never done, only forward. So.
I mean, what's the alternative? That's the thing. People go, oh, no. I go, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
So the other one seems better.
100%. And it's fun to learn. It's fun to grow. It's fun to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Nice.
Thank you.
Awesome. I was going to let you guys know you had 10 minutes left.
Oh, I figured I didn't know.
Did you want to pick any question up? I did cut you off about Mindy Peltz. What do you want to say about her?
I was just saying...
the directness?
The directness, but her new book that's coming out. The
Age Like a Girl.
Thing. And I was like...
Oh, yeah, I read it. It's great.
It's like, holy shit. Like,
well, and the opportunity.
Yeah. The opportunity, like, I don't know, like, as a guy, I'm not hanging out researching menopause.
No.
However, when I read it and I'm sitting with her going, culturally, we're not doing anything, right? It's horrible. And the hormonal, biological, and chemical shift that the woman's having so that she can basically shift from gluing the entire family together, making sure everyone else is okay. Mm-hmm. They're fourth on the list. But then understanding what the woman needs so that she can then sit in her wisdom and then contribute a different version of herself.
Yeah.
Like that to me was just like, holy cow. If we would nurture that so that the wise woman can have a better seat at the table as opposed to, oh, this is strange. This is challenging. It is challenging because the family's going to be forever different. Yeah. Because that person's different. There's a dying of that. So I just thought, and maybe it's representative of where you're at with the time in life and the kids leaving, and now do you find that is, you're still kind of more or less who you are, but at this stage in your life and for them going, you've got more bandwidth. Do you feel kind of that sense of, I don't know, the recapitulation of all you've learned to then go, oh wow, now, because you've always been a wise,
Don't push it, Darin.
Well, you have, and listen, we're all flawed. I mean, we all break things, but I'm more or less saying I'm excited for you in this stage of your life, and the fact that I'm just learning today that you're collaborating with other strong women to then be an advocate for that in the world, I think is exactly what Mindy was saying in a sense.
Well, and I think it's about what interests me is also living that way and representing that. And then I don't want to say not talking about it so much, but normalizing it.
Right.
It was like when I was playing sports, it was like, oh, you can be strong and feminine. Okay, we don't have to talk about it. Just do the thing. And I think the other thing that would excite me is if women would embrace the value. Not like, oh my God, I have fine lines and I'm getting older and young men don't look at me anymore, but going like, oh, what cool, this has value.
Right.
Not only for myself, but for my family. And sort of seeing that as valuable as, you know, I'm the prettiest girl in the room.
Right.
You move through that and your value becomes something else. So and again, it goes back to, I don't want to fight what is.
Yeah.
So how do I embrace it and make it as fantastic and fun and adventurous and exciting, not only for me, but then for the people who I hang out with.
Yeah.
It's going to be really also fun to watch. You know, I talk a lot about male wisdom, and I live with somebody who has a lot of male wisdom. And the fact that he deals with 3 daughters and a wife, I think it almost gets tuned up even more. It's like do it or die kind of, because we'll win for sure, especially daughters. To watch how Laird also is grooving and changing with it too. So my hope is like, I want to be a good citizen. Yeah. And if, you know, it felt like, hey, this is something you could do to participate and contribute and be a good example, not only for my daughters first, but also if I have another 40 years, I'd like to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's really cool to kind of become aware of a certain dynamic and then hear what you're doing to participate in that, and also go against this narrative of our, really here in the United States, maybe a young culture or a different kind of culture, and travel, and you see that really quickly. And then to know yourself so well, to honor that, and like you said, don't necessarily talk about it, let's just do it.
Let's do it. And I'll say one last thing that feels super important to me. I think also that it's so important for young women to not be afraid. And what I mean by that is develop your strengths and your skills. Because if you develop a skill of any kind, I think it's really empowering. But you don't have to forego being loving and being of service in order to do that. It's not an either or proposition, because the other side of that is to be loving and to be of service is really enriching. And so the other example, and I've been like, you know, men like you, like Laird, and so many, I've been around so many incredible men that this idea of, you know, it's like this and, you know, it's like men and women, it's like, not exactly. And when everybody is actually showing up with their best traits, there's a lot of beauty and harmony in all of it. And so the other part of that for me that feels important is like we still have kindness and love is still pretty great. Yeah.
Still should lead.
I think so.
Yeah. Keep leading in that big heart of yours, Gab.
I'm working on it.
Love you.
Love you.
Thank you.